Anybody in here whose name is Andrew? Do we have any Andrews in here today? Every time I sing this song, I think of my friend Andy. Andy walks with me and he talks with me. The rest of it gets a little complicated, but I really was perplexed when Conrad asked me to preach today because I wasn't sure what to do. Let's see. It was a shrimp festival, so I could talk about being fishers of men. It was Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. Today is Return of the 5th, if you know the Star Wars series. It was Kentucky Derby, which means we need to talk about running the race and finishing the course legitimately. And it's Cinco de Mayo. When is Cinco de Mayo? It's today. So I had all these things that I could have preached topically from, but I changed my mind and decided to do what we have the privilege of today. And it is so good to be with you again. And I was with you 6 weeks ago, and it was amazing how many of you I would see at Harris Teeter, and you'd go deep and wide, deep and wide. You don't remember anything else I said, but you remember the song. So, but thank you. It is my privilege to be with you today. And when I came to you, brothers and sisters, I do not come with eloquence or superior wisdom, as I proclaim to you the testimony about God. For I resolve to know nothing while I'm with you except Jesus Christ and Him crucified. I came to you in weakness and fear, with much trembling, and my message and my preaching were not with wise and persuasive words, but with a demonstration of the Spirit's power, so that your faith might not rest on the wisdom of man, but on the power of God. This is my prayer. One of my favorite paintings in the world is on the front of your bulletin. And I didn't choose this, but I'm grateful for the chapel staff for picking this picture. I don't know if you can use your imagination and your senses to see and think of being in a small room, probably kind of dusty, the smell of bread, the smell of sweat because the men there had walked miles and miles that day. The quiet conversations, the grief, the tears, the smell of the bread being broken. You see, after the crucifixion and the resurrection of Jesus, the people who had followed and had been with him were scattered. They were spread out. They were afraid. They didn't stay together like in our imagining of all of them being right there knowing that Sunday was coming. They didn't. They were scared and they scattered. I remember visiting this scripture with you about 6 years ago. And I remember the things that I learned that day as we explored the scripture, talking about that road to Emmaus from Jerusalem was a long journey. But it's a longer journey when you imagine that the men that were walking that day were grieving. See, we get so quickly from Good Friday to Easter, we kind of just go and we're done. But listen, it was a long way. It was a long way. These men are walking along and they're talking about everything that's going on. And they're talking about how confusing it all is. Somebody say they saw Jesus. Well, I didn't see him. Did you? I didn't see him. What about it? He said he was going to bring a new kingdom. I don't see a new kingdom. They were brokenhearted. My hunch is, looking at you and knowing you and all the places that I have been with you in these 13 years at the hospital, you know what grief is like. And it's a lonely, long walk. Is that right? I heard an amen out there. It is. So they're walking along, doing what friends do. They're walking and they're listening. This image is one of the images that we have even for a type of grief work called grief walking that you do in a particularly intentional way to talk about your grief. It's also, I imagine, later when these two disciples were talking about what it meant, all of a sudden they realized that the 23rd Psalm said, "And though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you are with me." All of a sudden they go, oh yeah, those ancient words, it just happened. They're walking along, and someone begins walking with them. Now, in our culture, that would make us really nervous, wouldn't it? Okay, you're taking your walk, and all of a sudden, some stranger starts walking with you, and your dog Fido. No. Even when you're walking in your grief, you don't generally want somebody you don't know. But there was grace in that moment. And all of a sudden, the stranger falls in with him and walks alongside, and he says, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "You look so sad." He asked about their downcast eyes and their broken spirits. And all of a sudden, Cleopas just lets it all out. "No, don't you know what's happened, Jesus?" And it just pours it all out. I'm always humbled by that. I will be with somebody and say, "Well, tell me what's happening." And all of a sudden, the doors open. Here it comes. They answer with their profound personal grief. "Are you the only person in Jerusalem who doesn't know the things that have taken place? Are you the only one?" "What things?" he asked. In another translation, he says, "Tell me your story. What are you talking about?" And they say, "Jesus of Nazareth." And then they begin to tell him. They tell the whole story of this. And we know that probably Cleopas and his companion probably are headed toward Emmaus because that's home. In times like that, in grief like that, you go to some place that's familiar. You go to some place where you know where the table is set and there's a place for you. You go there in your grief. And they tell this companion about Jesus. Now, this suggests that maybe they weren't in that inner circle of disciples. They were in the larger group that followed Jesus. But they feel that pain acutely. So after walking that day, and 7 miles is a pretty good walk, don't you think? Have you done 7 miles today? I didn't. They say, "Look, it's late. Why don't you spend the night? Why don't you stay with us?" Boy, the practice of hospitality, wouldn't that be amazing? A man recently was doing this particular kayak trip. It's called the Great Alk. It's up in New England. He was doing it from Canada to New England down in his kayak. And he went to this little place, little fishing village, and he asked the man if he could put a tent in his yard and spend the night on this 6-month journey, whatever. And the fisherman said, "Oh, yeah, come on home and eat with us." And he said, "Really? Yeah, come on home." And we went home, and they got another chair at the table, so there was 3 of them, and they gave their dinner. And he got ready to go pitch his tent. And the man said, "Oh, no, you're staying here." He goes, "There's only one place to sleep." He goes, the couple said, "That's yours. We're sleeping on the floor." That's hospitality. Now, the same guy pulled up to a yard in New York, and he asked if he could pitch a tent in the guy's yard on the edge of the river, and the man called the police. But they said, "Come in and stay. Come in and sit. Come in and eat." And they did. And so they're walking and they're talking, and they get there, and Jesus sits at the table with them, and all of a sudden he takes the bread, and when he breaks it, it was like, bing! The lights came on. That was Jesus. They recognized him. They didn't recognize him for some reason when they were walking. They didn't recognize him when they were talking. They recognized him when he broke the bread. There's something very sacred about that action. For us as believers, as we gather at this table today, that is a singular accent of our faith and of our world and our relationship with Christ. In that breaking, for we are joined with him in his brokenness and forgiveness. But Jesus was with them for a couple of reasons that day. First, he was understanding their grief. Sadness is just not something you can do alone. Something that you can't just get over. He takes time with them. He walks with them. He waits. He understands. He's providing for them comfort. Second, he's with them in their doubts. And I think that this is a remarkable perception. He's letting them just vent. Now, sometimes when people are grieving and they're saying, I don't know why this happened, and they're telling you all the things, and you're feeling all, and I'm feeling all those things, somebody says, it's going to be okay. You don't need to feel that way. It's going to be all right. You're going, why don't you just go ahead and move away for right now? I feel all this angst. I feel these doubts. And Jesus doesn't shame them for that. He starts helping them look within to hold their doubts. We are human, questioning, skeptical creatures. There's not a person alive, and in my own journey of faith, thank God that I heard and read of people with doubts, from Abraham to Moses to David to Jesus to John to Paul. They all had questions. Whew. And God doesn't condemn them for those questions. He waits for them to find the answers. Sometimes we can't see the answers. All we're left is our questions. And Jesus was there to share in that doubt. When they were ready, they'd see it. When God shows up in those doubts, in those painful moments, and when God shows up with skin on like you do in your ministries and in your friendships and your family, you sit down and you say, tell me your pain. Tell me your story. And then we're going to sit and have dinner, break bread, and experience the presence of God. This passage is also one of verbs. I remember I used this expression when I was with you about this several years ago. It's a whole collection of verbs. Jesus came near. He went with them. He walked with them. He went in and stayed with them. And then he vanished from their sight. A lot of verbs. It means that the journey of grief and the journey toward understanding and seeing God is one of movement. We feel stuck when we're grieving. We feel stuck when we're full of our doubts. But God is a God of verbs, of movement, of growth. Henry Nouwen says the Emmaus story is about a journey of movement from a hardened heart to a grateful heart, based because of the resurrection. You know, and in that, I love, it's an example for me, when Jesus is walking with them and what he's talking about, it's easy for somebody to be on the outside of someone else's pain and to tell them what it means. He's not really doing that. He's with them in their pain. As a chaplain, I've experienced that. I've been a pastor and a chaplain for, let me do the math, I should have added this up, since 1976. It's a long time. I was 12 when I started. And now that I finished that particular chapter of my life and working at the hospital and start another chapter as a grief counselor, I'm thinking, how many people have I had the privilege of standing near their grief? Oh my gosh. I'm so grateful to God that he's placed me and us together with people. Not to give quick answers, not to give platitudes or cliches. Excuse me. I talked with your deacons several years ago about some things to not say and some things to say to somebody when they're grieving. You can say, I see that you're hurting, and it makes me concerned and sad for you that you're hurting. How can I be with you? Not how can I fix it. Don't tell them what their faith should be telling them. Let them tell you what their faith is telling them. They're looking for the peace of God. They're looking for the hope of God. They're looking for answers. Let them teach you. Let them teach me. And a couple of years ago, I met with some bereaved parents. And they talked about their grief with me, and I mentioned it here, and I remember standing at the door of the chapel after that service that day, and how many of you came through the door that day and you said, we know that. We know that pain. We know that pain. And they said the most helpful thing that could help, that was for them in their journey, was people didn't try to take their pain away. And they didn't run away from their rage and their pain. They kept near. One of the parents said that when her child had died, her neighbor across the street told her, this is to me, it's so powerful an image, and you've heard it from me before. The neighbor said, I will leave my front porch light on, and I don't care what time of night that you need to come over and knock on my door and to have a cup of tea. You can do it at any time, any night. And for a year, that light was on. And the mom said she never went over there. But she'd go to the window and she said, I could go over there, couldn't I? That's grace. I told that story to one of my friends who was going through that journey. And I noticed about 4 months later that the light on her porch is always on. So that's what people need. They need someone to walk with them and to journey with them, to help them see, like Jesus did, that there are words of hope and promises, that God is at work in the midst of what we look for and who we are. That as believers and followers of Christ, sometimes we feel like we're traveling alone, at least maybe out of the care and concern of God, but we can't be. If we begin to speak about Jesus, he is there. If we begin to think about him, he is there. We cannot move or break the bond that binds us to him. But when the bread is broken, we see him. So today, let us take a walk together down a dusty road with our Lord Jesus Christ. Let us learn deeply and beautifully what the Lord will do and be in our lives. We may struggle, but in the breaking of the bread, we'll know him. Amen. Thank you. Let us now prepare our hearts for the receiving of the cup and the bread and the recognition of Jesus Christ in our lives.